Hi everybody, and welcome back to another video on the Firebrand channel. I wanted to talk about a video which I saw has been doing the rounds a little. I guess it's supposed to encourage critical thinking. It's a video by Warren Smith, the Secret Scholar Society. Not somebody who I'd heard of before, but I heard somebody else reacting to it, and we'll have a look at their reaction in a moment. And I was a little disappointed at what passes for instruction on critical thinking here. Okay, let's have a look at the video, and we'll jump in. Right, so
So these guys want to talk about J.K. Rowling? Is that so? What's going on with that? What do you want to know?
She's had a pretty controversial past. I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it? And, like, do you still like her work despite her bigoted opinions?
So let's get specific, though. Let's define bigoted opinions. What opinions are bigoted?
Okay, it's a good start. You know, it's good to get definitions sorted. No notes so far.
We're going to treat this as a thought experiment. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong or what way to think. The whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Fine. So he's teaching him how to think. He's helping him structure his thoughts. And that is something that we're really interested here, because it's something that I've also been commenting on.
So when you say bigot, you're starting with the conclusion that given her bigoted opinions.
Yeah.
So first let's start with, does she have bigoted opinions? So when you say bigoted opinions,
she has had a history of being extremely transphobic, I've heard.
Hey, you've heard. So what? Can you give me an example?
Okay, so so far things have been going quite well. He is asking for sort of evidence to back up different positions. That's always a good thing. Let's carry on.
If you look at her Twitter, I think you could see a few things. If you want, I could try and find
see
something.
See if you can find one.
Now, see, instantly I'm thinking, is that really a good place to start? If you're looking to define the argument as to whether J.K. Rowling is transphobic or not, wouldn't you start with people who are making that argument? That's where I'd start. When I'm listening to arguments from both sides, I'm not thinking that just doing a random quick search would be the best course of action. But let's carry on. Let's see where it goes.
So, one of these tweets that she came out with in 2019, she said, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real."
So you find that bigoted? What do you find about
it was
in there?
Okay, see, now this is, it's already starting to go wrong, and that's because what we're looking at is a really surface level analysis. I mean, I really hope this guy's only teaching high school, because it's not a very good level of critique when the reader is asked to simply flick through and see whether they can find the transphobia.
It was deemed transphobic. Like, I myself...
Do you find that transphobic yourself?
I don't really have an opinion on it, but I'm just going with what a lot of other people have said.
Okay, so if we're looking at what she said, you know, the whole first part was almost irrelevant. You can do all these things, you can be whoever you want. Basically, her statement was, be whoever you want, but try and shut me up for saying that sex is real. Now, you see, what the investigator here, I forget what his name is, he said, he also starts off with an assumption. Warren Smith, that's right. So Warren Smith also is accepting J.K. Rowling's statement that she is being scolded just for saying that sex is real. The notion that that tweet was really just about a bunch of people who don't know that sex is real. You know, they just can't conceive of sex being a thing that people have. I'm pretty sure that transgender people know that sex is real. I mean, they wouldn't spend so much time and effort trying to transition between different genders if they didn't understand that the gender that they've inherited, the gender that they've inherited pretty much exclusively as a result of their sex. I can't imagine that has escaped their attention. And so the statement that somebody is just stating that sex is real is something of a naive acceptance. But let's carry on.
So let's pause it. Let's not go with what other people are saying. Let's try and learn how to critically think. So
right. I mean, see, yes, that's true. Let's learn how to critically think, and let's not just go by what other people think. But here we seem to have skipped completely over the step of what do other people think. We've not inherited any of their arguments or listened to any of their justifications. What we have here is, I'm going to assume, a high school student seeing whether they can spot dog whistles in tweets. And that's a little, well, it's a basic error. But let's carry on.
Let's analyze the tweet ourselves. So that statement, do you see anything problematic? Disregarding other people's opinions.
She did try and pin some things on a specific group of people.
Where does she do that? Can you read that?
But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real.
So when I hear that, I'm interpreting that as meaning if a woman says that, saying that there is a difference between men and female attacked as transphobic, I think that's what she's saying by attacking someone for stating that sex is real.
That is exactly what she's saying.
Is that transphobic?
No, we see that, again, that's a very surface level interpretation. So he's accepting her narrative and her assumptions without questioning them. However, he is challenging the high school student to understand and appreciate both the argument and the deception that is assuming that trans people are arguing that sex doesn't exist at all.
To you.
So, to me, no. Stating that sex is real is not transphobic. It's just a fact of life. It exists.
So is there anything you disagree with in that tweet?
In that tweet, I can't really see anything that I myself disagree with, but I can see why some people would think, oh, this is offensive, we can't have that here or something, because...
Sure.
There's an apology tweet.
Let's read that. What did she say there? I haven't read that.
I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it is hateful to say so.
See, I don't think that was a good selection of tweets. I mean, if you want a tweet that's more in alignment, let's have a look. I mean, it doesn't take much searching before you can come across different things that J.K. Rowling has tweeted or said that are transphobic. Here's one. So somebody tweeted, Mahari Hunter tweeted, when you have two groups of people who don't even agree on what the gender recognition process is and what effect it has, no wonder people talk past each other. I don't have an answer to this except to pass the legislation, show rather than tell. Okay, so the initial tweet before the response is just saying that, that there is not agreement on this. J.K. Rowling responds, a few short days after Shona Robinson claimed there's no evidence of predators have ever needed to pretend to be anything else, Mahari Hunter tells concerned women that the only way to address their concerns is to pass legislation they have concerns about. Immediately equating trans people to predators. Nobody was talking about predators. This tweet was deleted, which is why we're looking at it on an archive site. There's numerous examples. In the example, I believe it carries on to talk about. Another tweet from J.K. Rowling. I'm not sure whether it's in this one or whether it was in the reaction video. Let's switch videos and let's have a look at the next video. Okay, let's play this one.
Do you think, in your opinion, is that transphobic?
I don't think the statement in itself is transphobic.
Okay, so this video is a trans woman, and I'm going to guess her partner reacting to the video. They've already reacted to the earlier part, and they didn't pick up on the fact that J.K. Rowling's statement might not be exactly what she's saying, might not be exactly what she clearly means. You know, there's lots of examples of this throughout history where people use a line of attack which isn't exactly what they mean. The attacks on the LGBT community often equate to identifying LGBT people as predators, and then asserting that predators need to be incarcerated, they need to be stoned, they need to have some kind of penalties for being these degenerates. And so links are made, but often people like to obfuscate what it is that they mean. Let's have a look at another example here.
People who menstruate in inverted commas, I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Woomben, wimpund, unwoomered, ? Do you think, in your opinion, is that transphobic?
I don't...
Yeah, so, I mean, when I'm looking at that, I can clearly see transphobic elements, and I will discuss those with you in a moment.
I think the statement in itself is transphobic, but I can see how people reading that might interpret get offended. Yeah. Like you were saying before, possibly could be a little bit overloaded.
It could be loaded. Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Agree.
Because sometimes just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
And I think that, yes, we've obviously looked over some of J.K. Rowling's tweets, and in themselves we might say, you know what, they're not transphobic in themselves.
So that's exactly like I said. They watched the earlier part and they found it. Even a trans woman who's watching that, and somebody who's clearly supportive of that trans person, whether they happen to be a relative or partner or whoever it is, they appear supportive. I'm not familiar with this person's channel, so I can't say what their regular content is like, but it is disappointing watching somebody look at J.K. Rowling's tweets and being invited and led. You see, they've been led by that video, which was supposedly on critical thinking. They've watched it, and this guy's poor analysis, where he broke down the negative parts and invited the listener to consider their assumptions regarding those, but then it didn't do the same with J.K. Rowling. That critical thinking video has clearly led the people who watch it more to that opinion. So it is in and of itself misleading. But let's carry on. Let's see how they also consider this video, this tweet.
However, when the tweets have gone out in response to other accusations, sometimes you just think,
is it coming from the best place?
Yeah,
I get that.
And
so even they can feel that there is an undertone. Those undertones are basically transphobic. stripping away of legislations, constantly referring to trans people and LGBT people as predators. There's a lot wrong about these. Let's carry on.
But do you not think that this is coming from a woman who has lived a long time as a woman, and then she's getting maybe a bit fed up with how the world is changing and not necessarily for the better?
Yeah, I get that it's not.
So she is defending her there, and if we let's look briefly at the tweet again. Here we go. People who menstruate. I'm sure there used to be a word for those. Someone help me out. Woman, whatever. Okay. She is writing a tweet objecting to the use of the word people who menstruate, suggesting that it's stupid for people to use people who menstruate, because the people who menstruate are women. It is inherently erasing trans existence in that it is saying that they don't count. So, okay, and you can say, right, fine. She believes in that. But imagine you had a room full of people. Breast cancer, unfortunately, kills many people. It kills more women than it kills men, because women tend to have more breast tissue, and because of differences in hormones, as I understand it. Not an expert in breast cancer, but of those facts, I am relatively confident. Now, let's say I was making a seminar to talk to people about breast cancer, and I have, let's say, 100 people turn up, and let's say 98% of the people who attend are women, because it mostly affects them, but there's a couple of guys in there too. When I'm addressing them, should I address them as women, or should I address them more neutrally? Hi, everybody. Or should I say, hello, ladies? It wouldn't be right for me to do that. And actually, when we start talking about health services, we really should be using terms that are inclusive of everybody there. We don't want to discourage those men who are affected by that, and I'm sure the rates are higher than just 1 or 2%. But still, if I'm addressing a room full of people and they are mixed genders, I should be using the appropriate terms. So in this instance, I'm not just talking just to women, I'm talking to people who have experienced breast cancer. And so I might address them as such. I might go, okay, to all those people who have experienced breast cancer, these are the situations in which you find these terms being used. People who menstruate. Okay, so if I'm writing something on menstrual health, and I need to send it out to all of the individuals in a particular environment who menstruate, I might say this needs to be sent to everyone who menstruates. It's in those situations that you'll find occasional people who object to those terms. Well, I don't understand why they should. Those terms aren't for them. They are not addressing just the people who they consider to be women. They are addressing people. They are telling trans people how they have to be addressed. If we are creating healthcare services for everybody, then why should my belief about what women are, or your belief about what women are, be able to determine how other people should be addressed? If we are addressing people who have experienced breast cancer, we should address them as the people who have experienced breast cancer, and not say, well, 98% of them are women, so let's call them women. Again, I'm not sure whether what the exact percentages are. But the point being that we use this accurate terminology, and the people who, as J.K. Rowling has done here, make out that it's being used as some kind of replacement term for women. So when I say, oh, okay, here's the people who don't menstruate changing room, and here's the people who menstruate changing room, that's not how it's being used. Nobody walks into a room and go, hey, people who menstruate. Those aren't the situations in which these terms are being used. What's happening here is J.K. Rowling is using that term in order, is presenting the argument without context and in such a way that it doesn't reflect the scientific and the scientific nature in which that term is being used, the specific and accurate nature in which that term is being used. It doesn't represent the priorities of the NHS or healthcare services in using the terms like that and why they might use it. And so when you take it at face value, people who menstruate, should be called women, you might not realise the arguments that are involved in here. But I can tell you that J.K. Rowling does. And what J.K. Rowling is trying to do with this statement is to make sure that literature that is aimed at people who menstruate, that is aimed at people who have experienced breast cancer or people, and just use the word women so that those trans people are excluded, or that those trans people are referred to as women, whether they like it or not. And that's not right. There is no way that she should be able to dictate that. And it is really unfortunate that this lesson in critical thinking has completely neglected to properly engage with any of the arguments. It's clear to see, a short look at J.K. Rowling's history would have noted that she's written books demonizing. She wrote a book with a transgender murderer who was using their trans status to gain access to spaces, as I seem to recall. But there's plenty of examples throughout J.K. Rowling's many tweets to show her anti-trans states, and it was really disappointing that this supposed critical thinking teacher hasn't engaged with any of them, or even asked his students to consider the arguments from both sides. Anywho's, hopefully they'll do better next time. I'll see you on the next video.